Hey, listeners, we're back. This is the Pile-On. I'm Big Z, and we're back for another off-season edition of the Pile-On, an NFC North podcast, and we're going to be excited to, distract you away from everything going on in the world and just get down to talking a little bit football here. So, again, I'm Big Z, but then we got Kinger.
What's up, everyone? Good to be back. Let's talk some football.
And of course, he's representing the Packers. Then we got Remy.
Skull to the bowl, Purple Rain in control.
And he's representing the Vikings, and last but not least, representing the Bears, we got Barney.
What's up, guys? Good to be back. Bear down.
Cracking a beer right there, Barney. Excellent. And, of course, I'm representing the eventual NFC North champions, Detroit Lions.
I like that. I like that. The eventual. I like that.
They have never
Doesn't
won
specify
it.
when.
They have never won it in the history of the division, but this is going to be their year. I really feel it. I would say that they need a virus or something to win it. So maybe this. So maybe this is the opportunity. But it's the off season. There's not a ton going on, but there's still some good talking points that we have ready for you listeners here. And the first one and possibly the most notable holdout for this offseason and something we'll be watching going forward is up north there in Minnesota, Remy. So I'm going to have you break it down for us, the whole situation going on with Dalvin Cook as you sit there wearing his jersey today. So I take it you're on his side in terms of this, but let's get your view. So kind of describe to us what this situation is and what do you think is going to happen.
So here's me describing how I feel right now. I feel like Stephen A. Smith walking down the aisle with the cowboy hat on right now. All right. So we all know Stefon Diggs was traded, which immediately made Dalvin Cook the most important person on that offense. He's the go-to. He is the playmaker. He is the focal point. Okay, so he wants – we all saw what Christian McCaffrey got paid. He did ask for around top Christian McCaffrey money. The Vikings then offered him like $10 million, and I believe – I'm not sure what the source says. He may or may not have felt disrespected. Anyway, doesn't matter because if Dalvin decides to hold out – I was reading up on the new collective bargain agreement makes it prohibited for him to hold out because if Dalvin Cook does not report to mandatory camp or anything after the fact or participate in any games, he does not meet the requirements to become an unrestricted free agent next year. So he would basically become a restricted free agent and the Vikings could retain him for $4 or $5 million instead of the franchise tag, which would be double that. So if he's smart, he settles for somewhere around 11 or 12 if the Vikings are willing to offer, and then maybe make another contract, negotiate deals down the line once he's all set. Pay the man. Pay the man. That's if it's me, you pay the man. He is the focal point of that offense. He is more valuable than Kirk Cousins to Adam Thielen. When he has the ball in his hands, he's one of the hardest players to tackle. He's right up there. He is a top 5 running back in the NFL.
Yeah, okay, Kinger, what do you have something to say about it?
Yeah, so I mean, Remy, I was just going to ask you the question of is what was your opinion on it, and do you want to see the Vikings, pay Dalvin Cook? And you clearly just answered that. Dalvin is obviously, you're right, the focal point of that Vikings offense. He is an incredible player, incredible running back. But I just wanted to point out something to you right now. So if you take a look at right now the top 5 highest paid running backs in the league, right? You got McCaffrey number 1 at $16 million with the Panthers. Zeke's number 2, Cowboys $15 million. Jets, Le'Veon Bell third, $13 million. David Johnson, the Texans, just absorbed that contract with that trade from the Cardinals, $13 million. Number 5, Derrick Henry, Titans, $10 million. If you look at that, those teams, you got the AFC champion Tennessee Titans right there, but those other teams right there would really what you would call strong contenders, right? And so you can make the argument is, you have the running back taking so much up of that salary cap. Is it really worth it for the franchise long term to make that investment? And I think that's something Vikings fans are really going to have to evaluate. Me personally, I don't really know if I want to pay a running back, right? And that conversation will be brought up with Aaron Jones next year. But, just from that point alone, is running back really that valuable? Is it worth it to pay running backs in this league?
No, and I agree. That is a great point because there's, a dime a dozen. You can go get any running back and put him into just a great offense and go and win a Super Bowl. Me and my buddy have this argument all the time how our running backs don't matter, and he's a Rams fan, by the way, so we saw how that went in the Super Bowl with Todd Gurley. But he always says running backs don't matter, and look at Seattle. They had Chris Carson, and they do really well. It's just you throw something with Alexander Madison, our backup running back, producing just as good as Dalvin when he takes the field. We saw less of him because Dalvin was on the field more. He was more healthier this year. When Alexander Madison is on the field, he is just as good as Dalvin Cook is. So with that, they could trade Cook away and go find somebody else and lean on Madison. But deep down inside, Minnesota knows that Dalvin is their guy, their go-to, and the focal point on that offense. Gary Kubiak has built that offense around Dalvin, and they have to pay him. In my opinion, they have to pay him. He is the most valuable player on our team.
I'll bring it over you to Barney just to kind of weigh in here.
Yeah, you guys are caught in between a rock and a hard place. You guys got a really good young running back that you want for years to come, but then you have to address, is he worth that much money? Just because of the depreciating value of a running back. I think with what the moves that they've made this offseason with Stefon Diggs and so far not re-signing Daniil or Everson Griffin, you just kind of scratch your head. I think they should probably get this deal done because you're right. I mean, he is the most important guy on that Vikings offense. I enjoy this predicament that you're in as a Bears fan.
Once you guys get a running back good enough, someday you won't enjoy it.
Oh, come on, man! Don't do that to me.
So, as a Lions fan, I would love to see the Vikings spend top 5 money on a running back. For the now, as an NFL fan, I would think that that's stupid. But as a Lions fan, I would love to see the Vikings sign Dalvin Cook to a lot of money, especially with his injury history. I don't think he's reliable enough to possibly earn $10+ million a year. I think he needs another year to prove it that can remain healthy. But he's a running back. They have a short shelf life. So if I'm in his position, I don't want to wait. So it's a tough one. But the fact that David Johnson could get paid $13 million in a season, kind of throws a little wrench into things. I would say he's right around Derrick Henry money at $10.3 million. That's where I would picture him at. Definitely not Christian McCaffrey money. He doesn't get that usage, and definitely not as reliable health-wise as Christian McCaffrey's been.
Might have to disagree with you on that one.
So, we'll Devin. Before we move on to the next segment, Remy, I just want to get a prediction from you here. Will Dalvin Cook get an extension this offseason, yes or no?
Yes.
And, there's one more thing we need to factor in here, unfortunately, is that, with the coronavirus stuff going around, is that the future salary cap is going to probably go down for the first time in the NFL in a long time. So that might be another factor that teams are considering when negotiating these new contracts, especially for quarterbacks like Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, things of that nature. But speaking of quarterbacks, that's where I want to transition this next offseason discussion with one of our teams, and that's Aaron Rodgers. So, Kinger, we're going to talk about your boy up there. A lot of controversy with the draft and Jordan Love getting drafted. We all questioned it mightily. So I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers' contract right now. It looks like, and maybe you know the details a little better, but I'm looking at his contract here, and the Packers can't get out of this for at least 2 more years. Is that correct?
No, actually, Big Z. And, to be honest with you, I hate that we are, having to have this conversation, but there is a way actually, and it's a very financially sound way for Green Bay to get out of this if they trade Rodgers prior to the third day of the new league year in 2021. And so this was an article that was being circulated around, or this was some news that was being circulated around, Packers news, Packers Twitter, that I was honestly surprised that, didn't catch a little bit more steam with mainstream media because of the reaction that everybody had when Love was drafted. So just to break it down, right? So if Rodgers were to be traded, like I said, prior to that third day of the league year in 2021, Green Bay would immediately absorb a $31.5 million cap hit. But simultaneously, because they're paying Jordan Love $3 million next year, it's actually saving them about $4 million in cap space total because of how Rodgers' contract is broken down, right? So right now, the breakdown for Rodgers' contract in 2022 and 2023 is $39 million and $28 million. If they trade him, they don't owe him any money in 2022 and 2023. That leaves them the ability to get a pretty inexpensive fifth-year option for Jordan Love when that time comes around, and they would have the cap space to sign all 5 of what we would be considered their priority free agents over these next 3 years, which would be Kenny Clark, David Bakhtiari, Aaron Jones, Corey Linsley, and Kevin King. Right. And then additionally, if you just kind of look at, the trade value for Rodgers, it makes a lot of sense. Right. He's still averaging, his contract over the next 4 years is actually only like $25 million a year. So, for his play level, his age, it's actually still very reasonable. So there is a way that Green Bay trades him next year. There is a way that this next season is Aaron Rodgers. Last year is the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, right? And I hate that we're having to have this conversation, right? And so, it's very interesting.
He's 36. It's going to happen eventually, right?
Yep, exactly. So, I think the evaluation, obviously Rodgers is going to have to play well this year. And, I'm a Rodgers fan. I'm optimistic that he's going to play well this year. And then I really think you got to look at long-term some of these free agents that I just mentioned, right? Kenny Clark, David Bakhtiari, Jones, Linsley, Kevin King. Are all 5 of those guys that realistically they want to be a part of long-term? I mean, the first 2 right there, Kenny Clark, David Bakhtiari, absolutely. Aaron Jones, I mean, he's proven to be valuable, but again, you got to have that running back conversation. Linsley, Kevin King, I mean, those are all conversations you have to have. So I think a lot of it depends on Rodgers' play, but that's actually a relatively cost-effective way for Green Bay to get out of that contract. And so, there's a lot of questions heading into this season.
So, Barney, do you want to see Aaron Rodgers get out of Green Bay as a Bears fan there, man?
Yeah, absolutely. He's been terrorizing us forever. So, I really, honestly, I mean, you can hope that Jordan Love is going to turn out to be a good player. But, an Aaron Rodgers Packers team just reminds me of just a couple years back when you guys were picking in the top 6 or 7 or whatever, just had an awful year. And I think Aaron Rodgers has been, it's just this situation is just so funny because Aaron Rodgers has been like the lifeblood of the Packers team, the only reason that they have been relevant. If they didn't have Aaron Rodgers for the last so many years, they would have been more of what that one year was, them only winning, 4, 5, 6 games, whatever that is. He can take absolutely mediocre players and make them pretty damn efficient. So him out of the green and yellow, I would happily welcome. Even if he was on one of your guys' teams, I think we'd still beat you guys.
Yeah. So Remy, is it realistic that the Packers trade Aaron Rodgers is just it's just thrown out there for a story to fill the offseason right now?
I don't. Everybody's tradable. I said it on draft day. Somebody texted me and said your boy Diggs might get traded, and I said, no, I don't think so. Anybody's tradable, so I don't think it's crazy. You got to think of the teams that would want him or need him, because. Hall of Fame quarterback. He's still very good. If you're going to trade him, have him go to the AFC, preferably.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him go, and I'd like to see him go sooner rather than later because he's a bad man. and he makes these unbelievable throws against Minnesota. And I think I'm done talking about the Packers.
Kinger, so I see here, tell me if this is right. He has a $21 million cap hit this year, then $36 next year.
Yep.
I feel like that would be a factor in any sort of trade if he has a $36 million cap hit. That's pretty tough to come by for any team.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure the details on that. But they were just mentioning that the value that Aaron Rodgers still at 37 years old. I mean, you look at the money that Brady's still getting at well over 40 now. And Aaron Rodgers' play, regardless of what everybody has said over the last couple seasons, has still been pretty elite football. It hasn't been what he has been capable of, and it's not been his best, but it's still, top tier quarterback play in the NFL. So, we're going to wait and see what happens. Personally, again, I don't want to talk. I don't like talking about this either. I just want to see the man go out and kill it, which I'm fully confident that he will do.
I like talking about it. I'm enjoying it. The prospects of Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay.
2 quarterbacks my whole life in Green Bay. I don't even want to think about the change yet.
But as a Lions fan, Aaron Rodgers has definitely hurt us in the past, but I don't think he's been himself the last couple of years, so I wouldn't mind. Actually, I think seeing him stick around. I want to beat him. I'd rather him not leave because I want the Lions to win the division with him at quarterback to say they've done it, and I want Matt Stafford to have that over Aaron Rodgers at some point in his life. Personally,
I think we need to remember that comment that you would like to see him stick around, Big Z. We're going to have to address that later in the season.
All right, man. So let's move on to the next segment here, and this is we're gonna go around to each of our teams here and just break it down as to who we want to see improve that's on the roster right now, and so some guys from the roster last year that we want to see take the next step this year. On each of our NFC North teams. So, Barney, I know we talked a little about the Packers-Vikings situation, so we're going to start with you first here, give you an opportunity. So, name us your 3 players that you want to see step up this year. I would imagine somebody on the offensive line, but that's just a guess.
Yeah, so that I will be talking about the offensive line in just a minute. But first off, I'd love for David Montgomery to take that next step. I think he had a pretty solid rookie year. He rushed for almost 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. He added about 190 or almost 200 yards in receiving, behind just an absolutely brutal offensive line. He was asked to do a lot, and to be honest, he wasn't even the lead back, until the 4th or 5th game. He was splitting carries barely with Mike Davis, but then also with Tariq Cohen. So I think he's got a lot of Matt Forte in him. He's not a blazer. He's not going to run right past you, but he's got good vision, and he could really just make the defenders break down and miss. But in order for him to take that next step, just like you said, one of our guys on the O-line, if not all of them, need to get better. The one that I'm really looking for to break out this year is James Daniel, out of Iowa. He's been on our team for a couple years now. He's been, kind of given a tough shake here because we don't really have a true center or whatnot. We keep flipping him and Cody Whitehair from guard to center to guard. So there's not a lot of familiarity that he's got so far. But unfortunately, the only familiarity he has is getting absolutely blown off the ball. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I think he's was really good at Iowa. I hold Iowa linemen in high regard. I think he's very versatile. I just think he needed a little bit, a couple seasons to get the hang of it. Our defense is our defensive lines in the NFC North are pretty damn tough. So, for when you don't have reliable veterans on your sides to kind of give you a little bit of a help, it can be pretty lonely as a rookie. So, I'm really hoping that he comes out and can improve. But just if I want to group the whole damn offensive line in this, I want to see all of them play better. The only guy that I think has been consistent is Cody Whitehair, but we just grabbed a couple guys this offseason, so hopefully we can improve with Castillo, our new offensive line coach. Hopefully he can get some production out of these guys, and that would definitely help David Montgomery excel and take that next step as well. But I'm gonna hop to the defensive side here, and I'm gonna say I would love to see Kwan Smith take that next step. I think he's played about as good as a middle linebacker in the first 2 years it could have played. He's had some injuries that knocked him out a little bit last year, but he flies all over the ball. He's flying through the field. His pursuit angles are great. He's getting tackles for losses.
Was Roquan Smith the one that had the mental issues last year, or was that Leonard Floyd? I can't remember which one was.
Well,
he sat out multiple games for undisclosed reasons. Was that Roquan Smith?
Yeah, that was Roquan Smith. They've kind of kept quite a tight lid on that scenario, and no news has really come out to shed any light on what happened. I don't know. It probably was completely like a personal issue. But regardless, when he's on the field, he's a damn good player. He's one of those guys that can guard the slot receivers if the offensive coordinators are trying to get a matchup. He's just very versatile, and I think it's unfair to say I want him to break out, because I think he's done quite a damn good job already. But we spent a seventh overall pick on him. And I think he's got a lot more to give, and he's a lot more talented. And those are the three guys I'm really hoping that break out this year.
Wait, what about Mitch Trubisky? You don't want to see him improve?
I would love to see Mitch Trubisky improve. I would, but you said three people, and I want to see
those. I thought
he'd
be easily in your top three, though.
Yeah, I like Mitch a lot. I like Nick Foles too. I don't know who the hell is going to start. Nobody knows who's going to start. But at the same time, I mean, with the way our offensive line played last year, there's only a handful of quarterbacks that could have done something. They were consistently in every offensive line category. They're in the bottom five. So with a rookie running back and a absolutely atrocious offensive line, I don't care who you have back there. I don't think you're going to have that great of a season. I'm not going to give him like the cop out here. He hasn't done enough for, us to be thrilled as, being our second overall pick a couple years back. But, I just need to see some help, and I need him to stop carrying the brunt of the load here with all the criticism. What's up, Kinger?
Well, I just want to say that I saw a hype video today of Mitch out there getting throws in with Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, Cole Kmet was out there. I think they had some alignment, and he was looking real smooth, man. That spiral was looking real tight. They had the slow-mo in there just to form. You could tell he's really been working on his game. So as a Bears fan, I think you got a lot to be excited about, let me tell you.
Yeah, and I know you're pretty sarcastic with that, but I mean, when you're dissecting the offense here, and I'll get into it more, but the most important position outside of obviously the quarterback on this specific offense is having a good tight end, somebody that's going to be able to block, but also be a threat in the open field to catch. And we have never had that. Our tight ends were an absolute joke. And not to say that we've absolutely solved the problem, but we definitely have the best talent that we've had, and I'm thinking that the offense will be a lot more fun to watch this year. But that's not a lot to improve on anyway. But
Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham. I like Cole Kmet a lot here. I think him being just a very big a very big wide tight end. He's going to open up things for the run game as well, lining up, because he's not afraid to block and he's a pretty damn good blocker. But he's also a very athletic pass catcher. So I think the offense for the Bears is going to be not night and day different, but we're definitely going to take quite a few steps this year.
All right, so let's transition it over to Green Bay there, and see who Kinger has got in his 3 that he's looking to improve.
Yeah, I'm looking across the board, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I'm looking at some of our young guys, obviously, to step up. Next year we'll start, with the position that everybody's criticizing Green Bay for right now, that they're not doing enough yet. They didn't draft anybody. The wide receiver position, and so the guy that I'm looking for that had, in my opinion, a pretty solid year last year. That's Allen Lazard. Out of Iowa State last year, he had 34 receptions. 477 yards and 3 touchdowns. Really pretty consistent production across the year. 3 to 5 catches a game. Had some big catches, late in games to keep us in it. Ultimately, I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's got the ability to be wide receiver 2 on this team. Only one single 100-yard game last year. Looking to have him improve, but a lot of hype around him. Rodgers loves him, and I think if he steps up this year, that's going to answer a lot of the questions, and I think Green Bay would be able to take that next step with another, really solid, productive wide receiver. And then to go to the defensive side of the ball, our 2 draft picks, our first rounder, number 1, Shawn Gary, didn't play a ton last year. Only 13 tackles, 2 sacks, really, with our edge rushers, with our pass rushers last year, Preston Smith, Za'Darius Smith, really was granted a year to sit back and, hopefully learn that defense, learn that system, and kind of take his time to get used to the NFL. This is a year where we are expecting big things from him, right? He's a first rounder. I think we got him 12th pick. And so it's really hopefully like to see Rashawn use those athletic, traits and gifts that he has for some real production this year. 277, 275, 458, 40. The man he's a beast. He's super strong. So want to see him take,
right?
Yep, out of Michigan, right? So I want to see him take that next step. Have that first round pick. The number 1 overall recruit out of high school. Like I said, all the physical gifts in the world. Time to hopefully see that production. And then the final guy.
The thing I remember about Rashawn Gary, I mean, he was like at one point projected to be like a top 5 pick because of those athletic traits you talk about, but he never puts it together on the field. It seems sometimes these guys just don't have it, even with all the athletic talent in the world.
Right, and that's what if you look at tape on him last year, I mean, Mike Pettin will even say that he was productive last year. He didn't have the stats to show up, but he was productive when he was in there. And so hopefully they're just looking to advance on that. He's also got some great hype videos out right now. So, I'm all aboard the Rashawn Gary train right now and looking for that next year. And then his counterpart.
Are you just on? Wait, hold on. Before you go on your last one, are you just on NFLHypeVideo.com or something like that?
Oh yeah, Twitter, Instagram. I follow all my guys. That's you gotta. I love me a good hype video.
All right. Get to your third one now.
So the other guy on the defensive side of the ball is Darnell Savage, our safety that we drafted last year out of Maryland. Pretty solid rookie year in the NFL. Showed a lot of promise. Also had his fair share of rookie mistakes, over pursuing, not finishing tackles, things that, hopefully you'd like to see him clear up in year 2. 2 picks last year, 55 tackles from the safety position. Everybody's raving about him, athletic specimen, great ball skills. He was flying up draft boards last year when the Packers made the move to get him. Still a lot of hype around him, and I'd like to see him, take that step to really give us, a sure end in that back end of that secondary.
All right, man. All right. Let's bring it over to Remy now with the Vikings, man. So name the 3 players you want to see improve the most this offseason. take that next step.
I'm going to start off with defensive end Ifedi Adenabo. Everson Griffin still hasn't been signed. I don't know if he will get signed or if he will end up retiring, but it's pretty clear that Ifedi Adenabo is going to be the starter for Minnesota. Last year, he came off 7 sacks, and I think he had 18 solo tackles, and he was coming in as a backup, and he had a forced fumble for a scoop and score, would have had against Los Angeles, and then would have had one against the Bears, but referees and such. Anyway, so Ifedi Adenabo, hopefully to fill that empty spot at DN to fill in for Griffin. Second player is going to be tight end Irv Smith Jr., Swervin' Irv. 6'2". He was a rookie last year, 6'2". He's not the biggest tight end, and I was very, very questionable that we got him in the second round, but he came out, he had 311 yards and only 2 touchdowns. I was at the game he scored his first touchdown at. But I think with Kubiak also in with the offense and him in a 2 tight end set with Kyle Rudolph, it's going to be some good looks, and expect more from Irv Smith Jr. And last but not sorry, go ahead.
Irv Smith is just a receiving tight end, right? He's not a blocker as much?
Correct. I mean, he'll block, but he can catch.
All right.
And then,
all right, go ahead.
So
go with
last but not least is our cornerback, Mike Hughes. See, Mike has to step up here and be the veteran, because he is the veteran. We drafted him 3 years ago, which it's crazy to say that now he is the veteran. With drafting Jeff Gladney and Cam Dantzler, rookies coming in, he's got to take the lead, and he's only 5'10". They're going to be starting him probably nickel. I could see him playing a lot as a number 2. We'll see how good of a camp that Gladney and Cam Dantzler have. But Mike Hughes has to come in and really solidify his cornerback position and kind of make up for the loss of Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander. So I'm hoping Mike Hughes can come in and make a big impact on defense.
All right, man. You talk about those cornerbacks so much in Minnesota this offseason. So if they start giving up 100-yard games back to back to back, it's you're gonna be destroyed.
I'm telling you. And if somehow they create a no-fly zone and they're really good, we can refer back to the tape in the summer when I said this.
Fair enough. So I'll get to my Detroit Lions here now. So at number 3. Will Harris, he was the 3rd-round draft pick last year. Lions plays safety. He's a rotational guy still, but somebody I think that the Lions really need to see improve. He got run over last year a lot. If he doesn't improve, he's probably not gonna be with the team by the end of the year. So I really need to see him step up and be worthy of that 3rd-round draft pick. Otherwise, it's a bad pick by the Lions. But then the top 2 are the more fun ones to talk about in my mind. So number 2, I'm going to go with T.J. Hawkinson. This guy, tight end, drafted 8th overall last year for the Lions. A lot of hype around him, especially when the Lions draft a tight end that high. Especially a lot of scrutiny, considering Eric Ebron not too long ago was also taken in the top 10 by the Lions, and that didn't turn out so great, unfortunately. But T.J. Hawkinson sets an NFL record for yards in the first game for a tight end in NFL history by a wide margin. And then it went downhill pretty fast from that point. He wasn't really utilized as much as we wanted to see. He went through a few injuries where he tried to leap over a Kansas City linebacker and landed on his head. So he stopped doing that since that happened, and then he had an ankle injury at the end of the season that he's working through in the offseason. But that is somebody we need to see used more in the passing game. He's an excellent blocker, and he's going to continue to improve there, but we really need to see him step it up another level. And then number 1, this guy was the first pick in the Bob Quinn era, the GM of the Lions, Gerard Davis. And the Lions declined his 5th-year option, so after this year he will be a free agent. So he has every motivational reason to play at a level that he has not achieved yet up to this point, which is to live up to that first-round billing and play like a linebacker that can be on the field for 3 downs. Now, it does not appear that is going to be the case based on what we've seen of his talents. But if he can be more what most Lions fans think is that he can be an effective pass rusher, and that's what we need to see out of him. We need to see Jarrad Davis really just be an effective pass rusher this season. That's where I want to see him really step up. I'm hoping Matt Patricia can put him in that position to succeed. He hasn't yet. A lot of Lions fans don't have faith that Matt Patricia are going to put these players in the right position to succeed. I think differently. I think Matt Patricia's had a lot of things go wrong that not quite in his control. But I think the third year is the charm, kind of like a college coach. A college coach they hit their stride in the third year. That's what I feel like for Matt Patricia, and it's going to go hand in hand with Jarrad Davis's upside here. I don't know if you guys have anything additionally to add to the Lions that you want to see improve. Matt Stafford's going to continue to be MVP level quarterback. That's all I know. But Kinger, what do you got, man?
Yeah. I just want to bring back to your point a few minutes ago about Hawkinson, right? So obviously he goes out and kills it week 1, and then ultimately I wouldn't say falls off the map, but is not living up to that number 8 overall pick, right? Shows flashes of it, but do you think what do you think the weakness is, or where do you think there's still areas of improvement that need to go in his game?
Traditionally, tight end is always the hardest position in the NFL. There's so many things. You're a wide receiver. You're a blocker. They have Hawkinson playing the H-back and in the back, like the fullback role in the backfield. This guy has a lot on his plate in terms of learning. In addition to that, he got injured a couple of times. It took him away. He got injured in the preseason as well, so there was that time as well. So it's just a whole list of things, and now he has a whole offseason to really get the playbook down, really understand his responsibilities on the field. Almost all the great tight ends, even Gronk or anybody like that, they don't really step up until like year 2, year 3 in this league.
Do you see him being a double-digit target guy?
You mean like 10 targets in one game?
Yeah, double-digit target. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Not in this offense that the Lions have. I don't think he's that type of guy. But definitely, I'd see like 5 or 6 a game for sure. But not 10 is too much. Just because the Lions have Marvin Jones, they have Amendola, and they have Kenny Galladay on the outside. They don't need him to be that
right.
Guy, but they need him. They definitely need Hawkinson to step up in the red zone more. That's where they really need him to step up more than anything else.
For sure. And
Barney, you got something to add here.
Yeah, you're right. Tight ends take a while to actually start, showing an ROI on the draft pick. It's such an alpha position, right? Like, think about tight ends that are worth talking about. They are, they're absolute personas. Travis Kelce, you got George Kittle, you got Gronk, even like quiet guys like, the best one to ever play, arguably, Tony Gonzalez. Like, you can't just come in and be a normal, a rookie and excel at the tight end position. There's just, you're tasked to block the backers, the guys that are going to hit you the hardest, and then you're also tasked to come up big in the red zone because of your size. So it's definitely an adjustment for rookies and rookie contract players to perform. So this will be a telling story if that was a good pick or not. That high. But I got a question. My main question for you, Z, is if and just because you kind of touched on it earlier, if Patricia doesn't have, a season that you guys are hoping for, I don't know what that number is, but if he doesn't have as good enough season, do you think the Fords start looking elsewhere?
Gone. Yes.
That was quick.
Yes, they pretty much said as much. If they don't start contending at the very least, they're gone, and they deserve to be gone because they haven't. They fired a coach after they went 9-7, and then they haven't contended since, and it's kind of been ugly at times, unfortunately. But Barney, the one thing I want to add to the tight end is that this is year 3. Yeah, this is year 3.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But, just remember the bet. T.J. Hawkinson's going to have more touchdowns than Jimmy Graham, and you can take that one home to the bank. I think he's going to have a huge leap this year. So
yeah.
I just don't want you to forget, when you pay up.
Hey, don't worry about it. If you win the bet, only because Kmet actually starts stealing a little bit more from Jimmy Graham, I'll be happy with it. As long as it's a production out of my tight ends, it doesn't even have to be Jimmy. But as long as we're productive here, I'll be all right with you winning that bet. I don't see it happening.
Remy, I saw your hand up there. You wanted to throw something in here before we move on?
Yeah, just a quick little bit about the tight end. How crazy is it that we were talking about the first round, 8th overall pick, TJ Hawkinson, but yet the best tight end in the league was drafted in the 5th round, and they went to the same school, were coached by the same coaches, ran the same playbook. And let's be honest, TJ Hawkinson had more hype coming out than George Kittle.
Well, yeah, he definitely did. That's why he's drafted 8th. But I mean, sometimes you find these guys lighting the bottle. They get in the right situation. Like Kyle Shanahan's a great coach down there. He's gotten a lot out of his tight ends wherever he's been. So it's also a situational thing as well.
You're right. And Kittle came in and was the number 2, and then the number 1 got traded, Vance McDonald, to the Steelers. So that kind of propelled him up. But it's going to be crazy out of the tight. I love Hawkinson. Met him one time. It was cool at an Iowa game. And I do think, however, though, out of the 2 tight ends drafted that year, Noah Fant will be probably the next George Kittle. And you can keep this recording, screenshot it, record. Noah Fant might be better than George Kittle one day.
Ooh.
Wait on it. That is the hottest take I will ever tell anybody.
You're asking a lot for people to come back and visit this specific podcast.
Come back to this date. Is it June 17th, 2020? Is that what it is?
That's right.
Noah Fant could be better than George Kittle.
Wow.
Well, anything could happen.
Well, all right, I'll say he will.
You got to be more assertive.
He will.
All right, attaboy.
Shout out to Iowa
so you
tight end you.
When you met TJ Hawkinson, what'd you talk about, or did he just say something quick?
Iowa Wave. It was like the Iowa Wave. My buddy sells Iowa Wave shirts, and we were outside the booth, and him and his girlfriend came up and grabbed one. And nice dude.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm still glad to have TJ Hawkinson on our team. I think he's going to really improve. But there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before we wrap this up here, and that's just the situation with the NFL right now, and the coronavirus. So I don't know if you guys saw Ian Rappaport's report here, but several Cowboys players and Texans players tested positive for the coronavirus. So part of that as well. And Bruce Arians actually had one of the better quotes about this whole coronavirus thing. He said he's going to get a 3rd quarterback on his roster and just tell him not to come to the facility, just stay at home, don't do anything. Like pretty much like break this glass in case of an emergency type quarterback. They're just going to put him in a bubble pretty much. So I mean, is there would you guys want your team basically to have a 3rd quarterback on the roster that never shows up to the practices or anything like that? He pretty much is just isolated. He gets paid to be isolated in his own house and show up for the game if it's an absolute emergency where 1 or 2 quarterbacks both get the coronavirus. They can't play. I'll start that with you, Barney. You got Nick Foles and Trubisky over there. Would you want a 3rd quarterback in case both those guys get the coronavirus? Maybe they're giving each other high fives in the locker room one day. One of them's got coronavirus. They both catch it. You need a 3rd one immediately.
Well,
is that something that we need? Is that something that all teams need, do you think? Because there's a lot of talk about adding roster spots for replacement players in case it kind of spreads to a team, but they still want to get the games in.
What are they going to do? Lysol the ball each time a play is down? I mean, they're if somebody's got it, if they're playing together, they're all going to get it. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, we have Tyler Bray. There were some screams for people to bench Mitch last year for Tyler Bray, but those are just the annoying fans that everybody has in their own group. But dude, this coronavirus is just so. I feel like with sporting, You got to do everything you can to limit the exposure and the possibility of it. But at the end of the day, if it's gonna spread, you guys are all on the field at the same time. It's just like there's just no way it's not going to just run right through a team. So just a long answer that probably didn't even answer the question. But we have 2 quarterbacks on the team, and there's a famous quote: "If you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any." And that's kind of the case right now until somebody steps up for us. But if we're talking about a third guy, sure, Tyler Bray, this is your time to shine.
Tyler Bray. Oh, yeah. Is he in the league still?
Yeah, he's on our team. He's like practice squad or whatnot.
Oh, is he? I didn't even know that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Kinger, do the Packers have 2 or 3 quarterbacks on their roster right now?
We got 3 quarterbacks on the roster. We have Tim Boyle as well out of Eastern Kentucky. So, I mean, I just want to see. I want to see the league do whatever's necessary to just give us football this year, right? I mean, like Barney said, there's only so much can be done. You have to take precautions, but at the end of the day, if they are out there and they're playing football together, there's a high likelihood that this is going to spread. There's going to be players this year that contract it that are going to have to be quarantined. I don't know. I saw the NBA or the NFL. I don't remember who I saw was doing like an immediate 14-day quarantine or something along the lines of that. But I want replacement players. It'll suck, but at the end of the day, I want sports back. I think everybody wants sports back, and if that's the route and the precautions that need to be taken is you have some additional players ready to go, then I'm all for it. Just give us our sports back at this point.
Yeah, and thank God the NFL signed a CBA right before all this happened, because look at what's happening in the MLB right now, because they have the CBA ending next year, and it's kind of affecting their negotiations. Apparently, they finally came to or they're getting close to an agreement as we record this on June 17th, but definitely later than all the other major sports. But thank God the NFL figured out before all this happened, so it looks like they're going to avoid something like that happening. But Barty, you want to add something to that?
Don't let COVID distract you for the real reason they shut down the MLB, and that was because the White Sox were going to take the league by storm.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey.
Remy, the Twins had one good year, right? They closed their eyes and hit the ball out of the park a bunch more than any other team with a bunch of guys that a lot of people never heard of. But don't think they were going to repeat that twice. All right.
Bomba Squad. Go Twins.
Oh, and with all the stuff going on with the MLB right now, it's kind of funny. Rob Manfred is kind of being named like the worst commissioner in all of sports now. And that used to be either Roger Goodell or Gary Bettman of the NHL. So congratulations to Rob Manfred for taking the new mantle away from Goodell.
I mean, that was a really tough task to do. I mean, everybody hates Goodell. Like to actually the whole country unified under one cause right now is definitely that Manfred is just a moron.
It's actually really it's really funny. Like being a sports commissioner, it always seems like you're going to be the bad guy because you get paid by the owners, you represent the owners essentially, and kind of run the league from there. So you're usually going to be hated, which is funny that Adam Silver is so liked. It's kind of unique. Whether your opinion on the universal opinion of him seems to be more favorable than a lot of other sports commissioners in history that I've seen, at least. But yeah, Goodell, Bettman, and Manfred are definitely on a different level than Silver, at least in terms of favorability. I don't know, but so over under half a game will be played in front of fans this season in the NFL. Let's just go around. Kinger, over under.
Over.
You think over? You think there's going to be fans at some point this season?
I do. I think we're gonna, quite honestly, I think we're gonna start the season with some fans in some capacity. I don't know to the extent of that, but I'm optimistic. I think trends are going in the right direction.
How about you, Barney?
I have no faith. I wish I could say that that I thought that I was going to be able to watch a game at Soldier Field, but I don't. I think it's with cancel culture and everything else that's like crazy. The last thing somebody's going to want to do, I think, is jeopardize people's health, even if they sign a waiver and say, I hereby will contract COVID willingly if I could just watch the Bears beat the Packers one time.
I'd sign a waiver similar to that, obviously. But how about you, Remy? What do you think? Are we going to see fans in the NFL stands this year?
Yeah, we'll see fans, whether it's 50%, whether it's season ticket holders, and then some. We're going to see fans. They're going to be wearing their skull masks over their face, and we will be beating the Packers week 1.
All right, and Remy now doing the skull thing off mic right there. So I think that's a good point to wrap up this podcast. Now we're at about 15-minute mark here. So, and it's the off season, so it's the summertime. We got to go out and enjoy. This, especially in the NFC North. The summer comes and goes faster than any other place in America. So we really got to enjoy it while we can. But unless you guys have any other things to add, I think that's going to wrap it up for us here. We'll have more stuff coming for you guys in the offseason, but it is the offseason, so these episodes might not come as frequently as it will when football starts ramping up with training camp and everything like that. But we will definitely still be providing content going forward. Find us on Instagram, The Pile On, and just leave us comments on there and any suggestions. You can find us in anywhere you find your podcast, Apple, Spotify, things of that nature. Please subscribe, leave a review, comment, rating. We'd really appreciate it. So, Kinger, Barney, Remy, and I'm Big Z, and thank you everybody for listening. This is the Pile On, an NFC North podcast, and we'll see you next time.